Hi, folks. My name is Warbass. We are on the floor today because I want to talk to you about something that I've gotten a few questions about after my last couple of videos, which is my actual physical Eurorack cases. I actually have two of these. They are both manufactured by a small outfit in Ohio called Black Hole Cases. As I'm noticing, there's some cling wrap on this one. I'll get that at some point. They are both 7U 104 HP cases manufactured out of wood, painted with this super durable, I chose green paint that really reminds me a lot of the texture of a guitar amp, including this kind of handle, some of the hardware here, and then even some of these kind of grippy rubber feet. It really feels like I'm carrying around a guitar amp, and even has the weight of kind of a guitar amp of this size. They're pretty beefy cases. So what I wanted to chat about specifically, I have my B case and my A case here. They are identical actual cases, but I'm doing something a little bit different on the inside of each. So I thought I would open them both up, talk about what goes in them, why I've structured them the way that I have, and just chat a little bit about some of the decisions that I made, in case that helps anybody else make some decisions that they want to make about their Eurorack cases. So one of the things right off the bat, if you do order something from Black Hole Cases on their site, they list some customization options, or just the fact that they do customization. So I actually reached out to them via, I think, Instagram DM when I originally ordered this first case, which I bought these cases about 8 months apart. I didn't buy them at the exact same time. But one of the things that I knew right away is that I wanted to be able to travel with the case patched, which is something that I think they claimed on their site or talked about with the depth of the lid. But I really wanted to make sure that I could pack up my synthesizer, close the lid, and that everything I needed for it was inside of the case. I didn't have a bag with the power brick in it or another bag with patch cables or something else. I wanted to be able to know and have confidence that I could carry around my entire synth at one point. So what I did is I paid like, I think, $25 extra to have them make the lid extra deep. So instead of whatever they have the default depth, I had the lids made deeper to match the depth of the base. And I did that on both of my two cases. In terms of just manufacturing quality, these are the only two larger format Eurorack cases I've owned. I've got a 62 HP IntelliGel palette that's up there. That was actually like my first Eurorack case. But one of the things that I was super impressed of, given that they are a really small shop and that I ordered these so far apart, the lids are actually totally interchangeable on both cases. They line up perfectly with one another. The clasps are in the right spot. The latches line up perfectly. And the depths of the two, even though I customized both, didn't order them at the same time, and never told them that I had planned on ordering two. I could not tell you which lid goes with which case at this point, which is, I think, kind of astounding given the I think 1 to 3 person shop that they're running out there. So let's first take a look at what's going on in my simpler case, the first case that I ordered in terms of the lid and what I planned for it. It's actually my B case now in terms of what I have going on the inside. We'll open it up and talk a little bit about what I travel with in there and how I think about it. So just do these and open this up. So this one's really simple. I knew going into this that I wanted to be able to store some stuff in the lid. So I found this mesh kind of pouch off Amazon and actually have it affixed with just really sticky, large, kind of heavy-duty industrial Velcro on both sides. So I can pop this off if I want to, but it is kind of a catch-all bag for the power brick, which is in here, some patch cables, and then one thing that I think is super handy, it's even handy just like in my home studio, is a little microphone bag with like all of this stuff that I might want to travel with or might need for my synth. So in this little baggie is, a little malt splitter, my Nurleys, super, super handy little screwdriver that makes it really quick to unmount things and remount things, move stuff around. Backup bag of all the screws that ever came with my modules, and even some headphones if I just need some earbuds in here or something that I don't have on hand for some reason. So this just kind of always stays prepped in my studio, and it kind of lives when I want to go somewhere in that big pouch inside of this lid, which again is deep enough that I don't have to worry about the stuff in this bag, for the most part, interacting with the knobs or bumping anything, because there is no there's no give or no depth that the base gives you, right? If I hold this parallel to the camera, you can kind of see some of the knobs and faders sticking out just a little bit. So you got to really be sensitive about what you put in there, or careful about what you put in your lid. And for me, getting that extra depth was kind of insurance that I wasn't going to mess up any of the actual modules here. One of the things you'll notice, you might have noticed in some of the past videos, is that this lid, or this case, is patched so that the handle, once it's open, is on the bottom. And that's to place the power jack, a little barrel jack right there on the outside, and the power switch on what will be the outside edge of the two cases if they're ever next to each other. So I usually play with this case on the left, so I want the power on the outside of that, so it's not in between the case and the next one. My A case I actually have set up with the modules upside down, so that its power port is on the opposite side. So I can have the two cases right next to each other, and the power cables and power switches are on essentially either end of my setup instead of being in the same spot, because they are identical cases. And that just means one of them is mounted with all the modules upside down. So let's get this case out of the way. We'll talk a little bit about my A case, which I think is a little more interesting and unique in the modular world. So I have another video that I put out recently that was, I think, a field recording noise set, where I featured the kind of assembly of this case. Similar to the other one, I want everything that I need for this to be ready to go and fit in this case. The difference is I need quite a bit of a different collection of things to make this synthesizer make sense out in the world. And so let's pop this open and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. All right, right away, before we talk about the lid, you'll see, as I had before, if I have the handle on the bottom, this is all upside down. So if I spin this around and I'm actually facing it, the power for this one is over here. That way those two cases can sit right up against each other, and there's nothing on the kind of inner sides of both that prevents me from having them immediately adjacent to one another and right next to one another. So in my kind of longer case walkthrough video that I did of this, I talked a bit about using it as a field recorder, traveling with stereo mics, and so I'm going to kind of showcase what makes that all possible. Please set that off to the side. That is really this more complicated lid setup. So again, this is the same depth, same design. What's going on here is a lot more heavy-duty Velcro behind everything, really with the central piece being this pretty serious battery. I'll put a link in the description to this portable power pack. It charges off a little wall wart thing that actually sits in one of these pouches. And it's really nice because, one, it's shallow enough to fit in here and not worry about a knob hitting it. But it also has two outlets, which means it's actually got enough juice to run both of my cases at the same time, which is super, super nice. The only downside I found about this is that it does have a fan that kicks on, which, not a big deal, but if I'm recording something and not heavily mangling the audio with this case and I want like a true field recording, if that fan kicks on while I'm recording, that can be a pretty big bummer because the condenser mics definitely pick it up. What else is happening in here is a bunch of these little Velcro pouches. So I've got in this the charger for the battery itself in one little pouch. I've got the power cable for the synthesizer itself and the power brick for it. And then I also have behind these two kind of doors latched in these gooseneck mic stands, which screw into these bases, which are also screwed into the wood here, but with really short screws so that they don't poke out the other side. And that lets me mount microphones actually to the case, or to the lid rather, and then run those into my Bafako instrument interface. So I can't get this going at this angle. There we go. And so I know of course. I know I talked about the Audio-Technica mic that I often travel with there. Let me do this facing down so I can actually screw this in correctly. The mics that I travel with are sometimes that Audio-Technica one, but I also keep a pair of these Lewitt condenser mics. What are these? The 040 mics. They sound great. I wish I had a little better wind protection. I'm still working on that for this case, but they are able to sit right in here, or when I want to, just clip right into these stands, and I can set up whatever microphone pattern I want, whether it's an XY setup or whatever I want with these goosenecks, something funky and just pointed in totally opposite, super wide space directions. It can get really experimental, but at the same time, the whole thing can collapse down safely. Tuck these underneath these pouches, fold them in place, and then I've got confidence that it's not going to wiggle around and move around on me when I'm actually moving this case about the world. One of the things that you might be calling out here is how the heck am I going to travel with this case patched with all this stuff in the lid? And I use tendrils on this case for the most part. Those are shorter in height than the actual knobs and faders of the modules themselves. And that way I can get away with having a patch set up and close this and still have all of this stuff in here without having to worry about things bumping into each other or the modules getting damaged or anything like that. So that's it. I just want to talk a little bit about these cases. If there's anything I left out, feel free to drop a comment, ask me a question. Happy to answer anything. I'll try to put some links to different stuff in the description. But I think that's it for today. Until next time, peace.